Let's go.
Okay, now we're live. There we go. Perfect.
Let's go.
Okay, well, first of all, hello everyone. Hey Marty. And yeah, I mean, it's 11 p.m. in our region right now, pretty late at night, and I know it's pretty early in the morning around your side. So yeah, you're just having your first coffee, barely woke up. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I mean, the weather here is absolutely terrible. There's a massive thunderstorm outside, so fun times, I guess. But yeah, tell us a bit about yourself and let's get into it.
Yeah, sounds good. And yeah, early morning here, so if I'm still chugging coffee, that's why. Yeah, my name's Marty. I'm the CEO at Lightning, and one of the co-founders, I should say, at Lightning Forge Games. So we are a blockchain and AI powered gaming studio. Um, our team's actually been in the space for quite a while. Prior to founding LFG, a lot of us have been involved in the gaming space for, God, I started working in gaming like 15 plus years ago, so a very long time. We've worked in the GameFi space before. In particular, I was the studio lead at Rainy Studios. And we've
Mhm.
all been involved in the AI space as well. Several of us were directly involved with Leonardo AI, which is a generative AI startup in Australia, one of the fastest growing startups in Australian history, who had a successful acquisition by Canva last year for a nine-figure exit, which was, yeah, definitely an interesting experience to go through that.
Yeah, that's interesting. The fact that you mentioned being ex-Rainy, that's a name in Web3 that I haven't heard in a while. So there we go. So yeah, if you can give us a bit of a story on that as well, how you ended up with your own studio and everything right now from Rainy and the whole the whole spiel.
Yeah, so coincidentally, this all like the whole LFG story kicked off 12 months ago at GDC 2024. And obviously, I was just saying we've just got back from GDC 2025 a couple of days ago. We're at breakfast with one of the people involved in the Rainy ecosystem, and they made an offhand comment of like, "Hey, if you ever want to, start your own studio or do your own thing, like I'll write the first check." It's like, "Oh, okay, cool." A few of us had some ideas floating around. Obviously, we've been doing a lot of investigation work and a lot of research in the AI space, and specifically how you could take AI and gaming and really sort of bring them together. And I mean, to be fair, this particular individual, not going to name them, but they haven't written a check yet. But anyway, won't hold that against them. But yeah, it just sort of got the ball rolling in terms of like, hey, let's really work out what we would do if we went down this road. We knew, well, obviously, what we're now building with LFG, we knew there was huge potential to disrupt the gaming industry with that. We had a chat with some investors that we knew. We actually started, got our pre-seed rounds, up and running relatively quickly, and yeah, within a few months, we'd founded LFG, and got the ball rolling, which is kind of fun.
Well, that's an interesting story. Actually, I actually found heard another part in your intro. The fact that you mentioned that you've been working in the gaming industry for essentially past 15 years.
Yeah,
Can you walk us a bit more through that? Give us a bit of of a more in-depth story on your gaming background.
yeah, definitely. So I got into gaming many years ago. This is pre iPhone. This is pre the mobile era sort of thing. I was doing stuff back then on like PC gaming and console and stuff like that. My background actually is a games programmer. So I started out doing that primarily because I wanted to be able to build games, which would be really fun. Um, Moved into design after that, and spent many years working in the design space specifically, mostly because I realized very early on that programmers are great being able to build games, but designers are the ones that actually can build fun games. So I wanted to make sure I understood what was going on there. When mobile really started kicking off, myself and one of our LFG co-founders actually, we've been working together for a very long time. We sort of both made that transition into the mobile space. Originally, I was just doing the indie game developer thing. So I would work weekends in a normal job to put food on the table, and then Monday to Friday I was pumping out basically mobile games both for myself and for contract work. A lot of them were terrible back then. I'll freely admit that. If you talk to any game developer, you know if you're successful in this industry, you have a incredible history of failed projects, half-finished projects, and just games that have flopped. We launched, God, so many random mobile games. I started working as a consultant in the mobile free-to-play space, specifically focusing on engagement, retention, and monetization strategies. So basically, if you think of any mobile game, there's all the sort of the wrapper around the core experience, which is how we get people to come back, how you get them to actually spend money or watch ads, or how do you actually make a sustainable studio out of it. And that was sort of an area that I was quite passionate about, and did a lot of work in that field. One of the things I said the whole way through when I was like doing the whole indie dev thing, the whole starving artist kind of thing, I guess, was I never wanted to work for a big studio. Like I never wanted to be like, one of the hundreds of people working on a Call of Duty game or something like that. I just wanted to, do our own thing. And, because I believe that we had the ability to build really fun experiences. And especially at the time, a lot of the tools that we, take for granted today were sort of starting to come through. Think like, early, Unreal Engine like 2 and 3 and early Unity and stuff like that, which really gave us the ability to, as solo indies, build experiences and sort of try to compete with the bigger teams and bigger studios. And that's a theme that you'll get that theme as well going through like the LFG story as well. So yeah, did the indie thing, worked as a consultant, got the opportunity to work with everything from other solo indies right through the AAA, which was eye-opening. A lot of really cool experiences there. And then as a consultant, one of the clients I started working with was a new Web3 gaming studio called Rainy Studios. I actually played cricket with a friend of the Rainy co-founders, and he's like, "Hey, I've got some friends here. They're starting a studio. They need help." And it's like, "Okay, cool. Like, yeah, sure. I'll come along." Worked there as a consultant for quite a while. Unfortunately, I had to roll off the project at one point. I had I can name. That's fine. Basically, I had another client come back wanting more work, and this company is a very large streaming platform who started out doing DVDs by post. I'll let you guys figure out who I'm talking about there. But when they come knocking saying, "Hey, we want you to work on a game," you kind of have to say yes. So I went and did a game with them. Came back to Rainy sort of after that. The co-founders reached out and basically offered me like a full-time role within the studio. So quit my consulting gig and moved across to Rainy, and was there right through the launch of the Lords of Light on like Epic, the launch on mobile, designed all the core mechanics of the game, designed a bunch of the expansions and got those all launched. As a very small team, we were running a full live ops TCG, releasing more content than even say Magic the Gathering or Pokemon TCG and stuff like that, which was fun. And then obviously Rainy was acquired by Seed Network at the end of 2023. They kept the whole team on, which was great, including myself. But then got to GDC last year, and we just sort of obviously I'd done what I wanted to do with Rainy. We'd launched and scaled the game. Created what I still to this day believe to be one of the best TCGs on the market right now. I think they've got an expansion actually dropping this week, which would be really cool to go in and play that. But sort of went from there and got the ball rolling with LFG.
Well, talk about the whole package of the story. I actually found it very funny when you mentioned not being part of the hundred of people working at these essentially AAA studios. Because I was thinking about my ex colleagues. I did work at AAA studios, and I was like, yeah, my poor ex colleagues who were working on the Battlefield series, actually feeling directly targeted by that. But,
don't get me wrong, like people working in the AAA space are some of the most incredibly talented game developers you'll ever meet. It's more, like I've worked on too many projects that get cancelled, too many projects that don't end up being the game they originally were envisioned to be.
Yeah.
But I've never wanted to work on something that is a 5 or 10 year project, because it's and we're seeing this right now in the AAA space. A lot of games that are launching and just struggling to scale, struggling to grow, because it's really hard to design a game 5 or 10 years in advance and then predict what gamers are looking for down the road. I've always preferred a much more agile approach to game development. smaller teams, build something quickly, get it out, get it into players' hands as quickly as possible, and get that feedback loop going, so we can really try to build with our community and with gamers, and work hand in hand. Like at the end of the day, we've got the same goals. Gamers want something fun. We want to deliver that for them. So it's a much better way of building games, in my opinion.
Absolutely, and I mean overall, the gaming market kind of has started to dictate this specific direction, especially now that we've seen the AAA studios and the AAA gaming titles overall just struggling overall. Like what gamers want is stuff that's more around the indie area or the double A area, which I don't know. I've always found the double A gaming is a bit of a cursed sector, because it's that crammed in between sector that people, it's that mythical creature that no one actually speaks about, because people usually only talk about AAA and indie, but the double A industry is weirdly crammed in between, and no one actually properly identifies it. But anyway, jumping back on our own topics right now, one of the main things I actually wanted to touch on was the fact that you guys have had this tendency to do a lot of wordplay with your titles. So I actually wanted to hear a bit on the story of how you're coining the names and going with the funny short versions, to put it like that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've all been in the Web3 space for a very long time. I enjoy shit posting on Twitter probably as much as Elon, I would say, these days. Although Assassin's Creed got him beautifully yesterday, that was really fun to watch. But yeah, it's the sort of thing where page one of every design document we put together is what can we do to make this game have the potential to go viral, make it memeable, make it shareable. How do you make a game stand out in a crowded ecosystem where we have tens of thousands of really great games being released every single year? And yeah, one of the ways we do that is cool. Good games need memorable names. They need names that can be shortened, abbreviated. I don't say to my friends, "Hey, let's go play League of Legends." I go, "Hey, are you playing LOL tonight?"
Oh my god, I actually am that exact category who says League of Legends.
Oh, okay, cool. I mean,
Trigger. 15K losers.
I am part of that terrible group of people.
I don't have the time. I need something short and snappy. So we sort of, we obviously you want names for games that represent what they are. But yeah, if you can have something that's funny, memeable, short. Obviously for us in the Web3 space, doing games like GTFO and stuff like that just is funny and makes that's literally what it is. Do we think this is funny? Do we think our community will find this funny? And if the answer to both questions is yes, we're probably going to do it. When we were doing some of the initial designs back, I mean, this is before Lightning Forge Games was even called LFG. We hadn't even worked out a name back then. We knew the first game we were building was going to be in the auto battler space. It's all about, having AI trained players, or, we're calling them AI tactics back then. And we're like, okay, cool. So we want a name that sort of implies epic, implies tactics. And yeah, like the name Grand Tactics Final Order sort of came through, and we realized, hey, this is GTFO. That's actually funny. And then as we were sort of getting the studio off the ground, again, we didn't have a name at this point. It was just myself, the other co-founders, sort of bootstrapping it and trying to work out what we're doing. We're in like Telegram and stuff like that, and we're saying to each other like every single day, like let's fucking go, LFG, 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 and we're just like, hang on, this has to be the name. Like this has to be us. Like it symbolizes so much about who we are as co-founders, who we want to be as a studio. As I said, we want to build games as quickly as possible, have them be beautiful, high quality products, but get them into the community's hands and let the community dictate if this is a good product or not. Give us time to pivot or time to really double down and focus on what works. So, the name Lightning Forge Games came from the fact that we wanted to be called LFG, because we really do feel that symbolizes who we are as a studio. And then when we would start doing the design work for the other games that we're building in the LFG ecosystem, we wanted to sort of take GTFO, scale it back. So that's where Gladiator Mayhem sort of came into it. The name is GM, cool. We've got a GM channel, obviously, in our Discord and stuff like that. So again, leaning into that sort of inside joke in like Web3 culture. And then actually, it was when we were at Token 2049 in Singapore. We had GTFO. We had it there actually on display. People were playing it. We had the design work done for GM, and we're like, cool. We know what the third game is. We know it's a like PvE dungeon crawler. We know it needs to have like the aspect of like permadeath. Like really lean into the aspects that blockchain enables in design that you can't do or wouldn't be as easy to do in the Web 2 space. And we're sort of like, okay, cool. So these are going to be like YOLO dungeons. So they're going to be, where you go in, if you die, it's permadeath. But there's obviously the chance for real rewards and stuff like that. And as we just kept saying YOLO, we're like, hang on, this is the game. The game is called YOLO. And yeah, again, if you understand the names, hopefully that sort of gives you a bit of an idea of the style of game we are shooting for all of these. And yeah, at the end of the day, whenever we have the opportunity to do something, funny, memeable, or just memorable in some way, and I hope even just the names of our games can tick that box. We're always going to lean into that, and that's what we're going to do.
No, I find it so absolutely hilarious that I'm literally the antithesis of what you guys are building, because you're never gonna hear me using the short forms of any of these names. Like, I'm that absolute villain who always insists on calling it League of Legends, or the shortest I'm ever gonna use is League, and the worst one is World of Warcraft, because I'm never calling it WoW. I hate calling it WoW, so I'm always calling it World of Warcraft in absolute full.
I mean, I hope we have cool names for our games as well. But yeah, obviously internally we use the acronyms quite a bit.
Yeah, what's funny, Martin? So, Dredson, which university did you end again?
Literature.
Some linguist.
Literature. Yeah, I'm basically a literature student. I study linguistics.
Yeah, and so every time I talk to partners, and when I use let me know just LMK or something like this, he insists me to use the full form of this.
It's a weird retardity of mine.
Well, no, it's respecting the language. Some abbreviations, some acronyms, I don't make any sense. But yeah, definitely growing up in the internet era, it becomes part of it becomes part of language in some ways
part
as well.
Of the identity.
Degeneracy is the part.
Yeah. Like I know LOL is in the dictionary now, even though it's technically still an acronym. So yeah.
Yeah, by the way, going into the AI part of your game, and so not just the game, but the story behind it, because you've mentioned that your team or yourself worked for Leonardo AI, and it's I was really impressed when I heard that, by the way. And besides that, you guys got InfraBuild AI grant as well from Avalanche program. So I'd love to know a little bit more, the experience behind, you building AI in the past, your team, and what's the AI part of your game as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as I mentioned, at top of the call, our team has a long history in the AI space, mostly working with Leonardo. Our head of AI actually was one of the product leads at Leo, and came across to LFG actually around the time the acquisition was being announced. He knew about it at the time, still wanted to make the jump, which I have a lot of respect for, because he's quite brilliant at what he does. He's responsible for a lot of our base foundational model stuff that we're actually building right now. But yeah, no, we've been involved with Leo. I was there back when they literally had a team of like 6, crashing on couches, at GDC and stuff like that, in some of the earliest meetings that they had. Obviously, I'm still with the team as in an advisory capacity, even post their acquisition with Canva, which is really cool. But yeah, when we were sort of getting LFG off the ground, the big question we were sort of looking at is like, cool, yeah, we could go found a game studio. That part's easy. We could probably raise enough funding to build something. But if we were going to do this, we really wanted to go, right, what can we do different and better than anyone else? How can we disrupt the gaming industry in the best way we can? And we're looking specifically at how AI was being used in games. As I said, this is coming off the back of GDC last year. So you walk around the GDC, like the expo floor. There were a lot of studios there last year and even this year that are talking about how we're AI powered, we're AI tools, we're an AI company, or they've got the .ai at the end of their name. And you actually talk to them, and all they've actually done is they've taken ChatGPT, like the public API, and they've wrapped it up to do something, or they're using image generation or 3D model generation was a big thing this year. That's cool. It's like, that's fine. Like, anything we can do to make the game development process easier for teams is 100% valid, and we need to do that. As we mentioned, AAA, costs are spiraling. Anything we can do to make game developer work quicker and easier is never going to be a bad thing. But there was no one at the time, and even honestly this year as well, really there was no one who was going, right, what happens if you take AI and you start trying to build games that just couldn't exist without AI as a core feature of the experience? And then that's sort of the road we started to go down, 8-9 months ago now, when we founded the studio. And it's like, right, what do AI powered games look like? And we started building what we now call LFG agents, which we call AI powered players. They are players that they're AI agents, but they will look, feel, and game just like a human. We're using a secret blend, I guess you would say, of deep reinforcement learning and imitation learning to sort of train them. We're training them off real player data, to the extent where last week at GDC was our first public playtest for Gladiator Mayhem, and a lot of people are jumping in. They're playing the game. They thought they were playing against us. We didn't have the heart to tell half the people at the time that whenever one of the team had a controller in our hands, we weren't pressing any buttons. They were playing against an AI built off what we would normally do, and they couldn't tell the difference. And that's the whole fundamental thing that we're building with LFG. Is once you have AI agents or LFG agents that play just like you, to the extent where your opponents couldn't tell the difference, your friends who you play with couldn't tell the difference. This opens up this incredible world of possibilities and new areas of game design, to the extent that as we mentioned in a bunch of meetings like last week, we don't believe we are building one or more games. We believe we are building a new genre of gaming that we call AFK and play. Because if you've got an AI agent or an LFG agent which is trained to play exactly like you, and there's a tournament at 2:00 in the morning that you would love to play, why can't you register for that tournament and have your LFG agent play on your behalf? If your opponents couldn't even tell the difference, if you were sitting there, behind your phone, your keyboard, your mouse, your controller, whatever it is, or an AI agent, does it actually matter at that point who is actually playing? Because the experience for your opponent is exactly the same either way. Why can't I go play a tournament and then wake up in the morning to a notification saying, hey, you came third, come back and claim all your prizes? Why can't I, reach out to, say, Dreadsong and say, right, hey, you're really good at playing this character. I want to train, but you're busy. Can I train against your LFG agent and use that as practice? Why can't I play with or against an LFG agent from my favorite streamers, influencers, even the world champion? I could play and practice against them. It opens up this incredible world of possibilities and solves so many problems that we're seeing across everything from indie to AAA in what we call the live ops space. So, how often do you jump into a game? And I'll call out League of Legends here because it's one of my main games I play outside of everything we're doing with LFG. And you jump in, and it's a 20-minute queue, it's a 30-minute queue. You basically have to just drop out because you don't have an hour to wait for a game, then an hour to play a game. People have lives, people have other things to do. One of the interesting things that gets solved by LFG agents in our internal testing at the moment, our maximum queue time is 2 seconds to get you into a match. You add that being a mobile game, so you load in the game, bang, it's it loads within seconds. You hit play, and 2 seconds later you are in a game ready to go. Doesn't matter what time of day it is, doesn't matter how many people are online, doesn't matter what your skill level is. All of a sudden you're giving this really incredible experience to gamers that we just haven't had before. Unless you're playing Fortnite on the day a new season comes out and everyone is online. So yeah, I guess to sort of circle back. So yeah, LFG was founded with the idea of obviously we have a team with a very strong background in gaming, but a very strong background in AI. And we saw an opportunity here to build something that's honestly, we don't see anyone else in the space even really trying to do to the level that we're doing it. Because it's more, we can build the agents, but then we're taking the experience we have in gaming and then working out how to apply those agents in new ways to create these brand new experiences and this whole new genre for gamers.
It's actually interesting because this reminded me of a discussion I was having on an X space a couple of weeks ago, and the subject was essentially like how actually not a few weeks. I think this was older than that. I do remember this was basically when the broader utilization of AI agents in gaming came as a subject from the broader traditional market perspective. And one of the ideas, or rather not exactly idea, but one of the subjects I came up with was one of the problems that we have in games like League of Legends, let's say, like MOBAs overall, is that at one point, one of the biggest problems that you can essentially encounter is when one of your teammates leaves for God knows what reasons. I don't know, his internet dies, his electricity dies, he decides to rage quit, so on and so forth. So what would be a fix to that? And with AI being so predominant lately, why can't the big companies simply have an AI model that actually actively analyzes what people are doing during the match, the way that people are playing, and I don't know, in an emergency situation in which someone just decides to disconnect, the AI takes over and he's basically just playing the same way that player would play, but without him actually being in the game. And I don't know, I just found this subject quite fascinating. It literally just came to mind throughout the discussion we were having during that space, and it was basically this random observation. So yeah, it just it walked right into what you were essentially talking about.
There is literally you've read our pitch deck clearly. There was a page in our pitch deck that literally talks
Only
about
not, I
that
did
specific
not.
example. Okay, cool. I mean,
actually did not.
Yeah, because we talk about that example. It's like, okay, cool. Like if someone disconnects, and as you said, it could be just a random internet issue, could be a rage quit, could be whatever. But there's a few things you can do, and all of these are just terrible options, and you're trying to pick what is the least terrible option. Do you remove the player from the game? Well, that sucks because now it's 4v5 or 2v1 or whatever it happens to be. Do you have them just stand there doing nothing? That's almost worse because now they're just a free kill for their opponents.
Exactly.
Do you have them just run back to base? Well, okay, it's it's not great, obviously, because they just run back to base and sit there doing nothing. I think that's what League is doing.
That's
at the
what
moment.
League does.
Yep.
Have.
Yep. Or you have you put in a behavior tree based bot that just will play in a very default way. Which that's almost worse because that's predictable. You can abuse that, and it doesn't feel like that player. And yeah, as I said, what we're doing with LFG agents, because we have trained an agent specifically on your playstyle based on all of your match history, we can theoretically. So you disconnect, we recognize that in the game, we replace you seamlessly with your LFG agent, and you just keep playing. And obviously, we're hoping you reconnect, and as soon as you do, bang, we pop you back in. But using the League of Legends example, if you would normally say, if you're top lane and you go support a Baron or something like that, your agent will do that. If you would go back to base and you would buy certain items, your agent will do that. So if you're disconnected for a few minutes, when your internet comes back on, you get back in the game, it's going to feel like, oh, hey, cool, I went and bought, a certain item, but that's probably what I would have bought anyway. It's never going to be 100%, because obviously, as much as we try to train the agents on as much data as we have available, maybe you had decided that game you wanted to try a new tactic, a new strategy, and the agent is generally going to try and play like you've played traditionally. It's not going to really try and reinvent the wheel. So, but we look at that as just this is a way games could improve the player experience, immeasurably for the other players in the game as well as yourself when you reconnect. And with LFG agents, it's actually pretty easy to implement. We're already chatting with a bunch of other games and studios because what we're building with LFG agents isn't just for us. We're building it as a tool for other games to use in whatever way they see fit as well.
I actually find it quite funny that I realize that a model like this fixes another problem, and that's boosting. Why? Because
Yep.
when you have like AIs actively like analyzing the behavior of the player, and you have like sharp shifts in overall gameplay, the system just flags the account and you instantly know because
Mm.
different different online games, especially the competitive types, have problems with boosting services.
Yep.
And one of the main problem is that you can't properly, you know, prove that a player got boosted unless there's like very obvious resources to work with. But in a situation like this, in a scenario where an AI active starts analyzing player behavior, player metrics of these types, that's when you can instantly realize, okay, something's fishy here, and this is something that you can actually go into, analyze, and find it out. So this is something I did not even realize up till this point. But yeah, I just found it I just found it funny to realize this thing. But
So
anyway,
there's with
yeah,
that,
go ahead.
there's just because again, this is something we're looking at as well, and there's two things we're doing here that I think you're going to find really interesting. So obviously, you're talking about like boosting, how you can spot when a high ELO player takes over a low ranked account. But because we've got LFG agents trained on each individual player, we can actually spot when people are just account swapping. So if two players of similar skill swap accounts, we can actually spot that, because even though they're playing at a similar skill level, their underlying play style, what they actually do in the game, is different.
Yeah.
So we can actually spot that. And then the really cool thing that we're actually working with a client at the moment, I can't name the game that we're working with, but when it comes to obviously we can spot account boosting really easily. But what we then do is we actually replay that match, but we take out the boosted player and replace them with the LFG agent at the skill level that that player should be at, and we actually run the match back, and then we see what actually should have happened in that match. And let's say, for example, the team with the boosted player won, but when we do the replay, it was the other way around. We can actually then tell the game knows that is how the match should have played out. And then we can potentially look at adjusting MMR, adjusting rewards. Like we can actually go right in and go, right, cool. Like, hey, yeah, they had a boosted player, but their team comp, they were going to win anyway. It sucks that it happened, but at least we've spotted it, we've banned the player, whatever we need to do. But if it turns out to be the other way around, it's like, hey, you should have actually won this game if they hadn't basically subbed in a pro or a high ELO player. We can actually give you your reward. Say, look, you should have won. We've banned this player, but here's what you should have gotten if the match played out fairly. And that, I think, is something very unique in our approach that I don't think other games would even be able to do without LFG agents.
Well, I mean, this is a time in the gaming market in which I am actually happy I'm not doing boosting services in anymore, because I would probably run bankrupt.
Yep.
So, funnily enough, as a bit of a background check on myself, I got permanently banned for boosting on top of toxicity. But yeah, I used to run boosting services, and I would probably not have a fun time right now with the way that
Cool.
AI is evolving.
Yeah, but I mean, the cool thing with the way like LFG agents are trained, you are going to end up running a boosting service, but you're going to be running it for your account.
Yeah.
For say Gladiator Mayhem, every hero that you have has its own like LFG agent attached to it. Obviously, you are training, so you get to actually really go in, and you can either choose. You can either be, the star of the football team playing the game yourself, or you can more be, the coach of the football team, sort of training and working on the best tactics and strategies, and sort of controlling how the agents are trained. So you kind of get to have, a bit of both there with the games that we're building.
Okay,
Pretty
now
interesting.
since we've been going all over the place, let's run into the games themselves. Can you start giving us an overview of all the different games, how they differ from each other, how they play, and so on and so forth?
Absolutely. So first game coming out is Gladiator Mayhem. GM is a 2v2 arcade hero brawler. So if you've played, say, Brawl Stars, something like that, think Brawl Stars, but a little bit faster, a bit more arcadey. There's more crazy physics. There's things exploding, more stuff like that sort of going on. But designed in what we call a hybrid casual approach. Hybrid casual is a very game developer term to say it's a game that's very easy to learn and get into, And then as you start playing, you start unpacking just layer and layer of depth and complexity in how you can play the game, the tactics, the strategies, the characters, all those sort of things. So we look at GM as the gateway into the LFG ecosystem. Easy for players to pick up, easy to learn. It's going to be on mobile, it's going to be on web. We're chatting with a large Japanese company about potentially doing a console release as well. Can't say the name of it yet, but it ends in a 2. So we'll let you guys figure that out. And no, it's not PlayStation 2. So that's game 1. That's Gladiator Mayhem. Game 2 is going to be YOLO. You only live once. So YOLO is a PvE dungeon crawler. So you and either your LFG agents or you and your friends, going through dungeons, battling through. They're all procedurally generated, so it plays out differently every single time. The 2 cool things we're doing with YOLO is what I mentioned before. So there's YOLO dungeons, which are dungeons they're like hardcore dungeons. So dungeons with permadeath. And if you are in there and you die, we will burn your NFT. So, sorry, I should actually go back a second here. I've jumped ahead a little bit. All the heroes that you collect in the LFG ecosystem, you play with across all of the games we are releasing. So the Barbarian Warrior you have in GM is the same Barbarian Warrior you have in YOLO and the same one you have in GTFO. So under the hood, all of the games we are building are all linked. You have the same LFG account sort of driving all of this. So when the next game comes out, you don't have to go and recollect everything and start from scratch. You just get to keep going with your account exactly how you have it in the other games. So YOLO is kind of like the high risk, high reward style of gameplay that we know a lot of people love, especially in the GameFi space. So like I said, if you choose to go into a YOLO dungeon and you die in there, we will burn your hero NFT and we will burn the LFG agent attached to that hero at the time. But because we're on chain and because we have a deterministic game engine and we can verify all of our results in the ways that we're talking about, we can make sure you're not cheating and stuff like that. We can put real world prizes in those dungeons as well. So imagine, streaming on X, or you're streaming on, Kick or Twitch. I'm risking my $10,000, NFT because there is 1 Bitcoin at the end of this dungeon. So, there's a certain category of player that loves that sort of high risk, high reward gameplay. And YOLO definitely will appeal to them. You don't have to do YOLO dungeons. There will be standard dungeons as well, where if you die, you'll still be punished, but you won't lose your hero and stuff like that. But yeah, the main thing with YOLO is that sort of high risk, high reward gameplay. And then GTFO. So it's the first game we designed. It's going to be the 3rd game we release because it's going to be the epic scale auto battler. So this is where it's going to be your heroes and hopefully as many as we can get. We're hoping that we can do hundreds of heroes on each side of the battlefield in this epic scale auto battler. The problem we've had with auto battlers in the past, so think like TFT or stuff like that, is they do 1v1, they do 2v2, they do maybe by the end game you have 5v5 and stuff like that. We're like, no, what's fun is you think back to the original Gladiator movie where you had the massive Roman army taking on this huge barbarian horde, and you've got hundreds of people on either side coming together in this epic scale cinematic battle. That's the sort of experience we're shooting for with GTFO. Some of the tech we're building right now to make that happen. As I said, we're building a full deterministic game engine that just runs more performant than even Unity itself. We're doing a lot of work with Unity 6 to get the graphics to the point where we can have this sort of epic scale experience running on even low end devices. So I think your entry level like Android or iPhones and stuff like that. And as I said, all 3 of these games will be linked under the hood. So everything you're doing in one game will carry over into the others as well. Once people are engrossed in the LFG ecosystem, we don't want it to be a case of hey, you only play one game. We want people to have the ability to jump into the different games depending on the kind of gameplay they are looking for at that particular time. If you might be the sort of gamer that loves dungeon crawlers, so YOLO is your game of choice, but that doesn't mean you can't, when you're waiting at the bus stop for the bus to work or something, you got 2 minutes, cool, jump into a quick game of Gladiator Mayhem, because it's going to load super fast. You can get into a match in 2 seconds. The average match length at the moment is 45 seconds. So if you have a minute free, GM is the perfect game for you. If you've got, say, 5 to 10 minutes, you play YOLO. If you're looking for that more strategic, in-depth, longer game session, maybe you're going to play GTFO. So we're really trying to make sure we've got different experiences suited for everyone, depending on what you're looking for at that given time. You might be muted there. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I was actually waiting for Himmers because I know he
Oh,
had-
I can finally. Let's go.
he,
So
he
for
was
me-
waiting for me to shut up.
No, I know that you are League of Legends gamer. I can't shut up. You're right dead after, Joke.
I gave you the chance to speak, so go ahead.
Okay, just the first thing that I heard about AI agents, right? About the gaming, the major thing in gaming, if we're talking about tournaments, I hosted 12 tournaments last year, and the major issue, the biggest one was ping issue. That's like literally, and when we're talking about AI, which can go through like servers and play with gamer play style, is really a good thing to scale business in terms of entertainment, tournament delivery like services and the things, and the entertainment also. Like, what are your thoughts about it? Like, I think a lot of people really just having this in mind to make AI which will at least shoutcast at last will play in game, and there will be zero ping issue. It will be pure entertaining because a lot of audiences just want to watch, they don't care about to play. They just going to watch while they're going to work, while they back to home, while they're chilling in bed. They just want to watch how their favorite gamer play. But how is possible, and do you have the thoughts with your product?
Yeah, definitely. So a couple of things we're doing in that regard. So obviously, the great thing with all of our games, if you're a streamer, if you're a personality, you like creating content, whether it be like live content like we're doing now, or whether it's like YouTube or stuff like that. One of the problems you have as a game content creator, if you've got to focus on playing the game, it is infinitely harder for you to also be entertaining for your audience at the same time. Whereas if you could say be in a game and your LFG agents are doing the gameplay, while the game is on, you're more sitting back, you're more a commentator. You get to interact with your Twitch chat or wherever you're streaming. You get to actually give your thoughts on what's happening. It creates a new style of streaming, which is really fun. But then also on top of that, we're using AI. Again, we're an AI studio. We do a lot of things with AI, obviously. The example I gave before, where you might play a tournament overnight and you wake up in the morning to your results. We also generate an AI-powered highlight reel, where we've taken all of the epic moments that happened while you were asleep, put them together in a little 30-second or a 1-minute clip for you automatically. And then that's set up already in either vertical or horizontal format for you to share to different platforms. So TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube, stuff like that. Because we also understand the way games are going these days, and a lot of the bigger players are getting this. Like you look at, both Xbox and PlayStation now have like share buttons on the controllers. You look at, playing on PC, if you have Xbox game bar running in the background, it's always recording. So if something cool happens, you just hit a button and it captures that 30 seconds that led up to that moment. We understand that gamers, as much as they enjoy playing games, it's a much more social experience. They want to be able to share what is happening with them, with their friends, with their community, wherever it happens to be. So we're trying to make sure that all of our games do suit that kind of experience. One of the things that myself and some friends do is on a Friday night, friends will come around, we'll grab some pizzas, grab some beer and stuff like that. And what we normally do is we'll actually put FIFA up on the big TV. We won't play it ourselves. We'll just set up, whether it's Barcelona and AC Milan or whoever, and we just turn it into a bit of a drinking game, or we bet on who we think is going to win and stuff like that. And it's fun, just have it up there, in the background sort of thing. I would love to imagine a world where someone, maybe while they're at work on their second screen or something, or on their phone in front of them, they just have a cool stream of Gladiator Mayhem matches happening in real time, or they watch tournament highlights from the GM World Championships or something like that. I would love to think that we can create something that is not only fun as a gamer, but knowing that we have matches that will be played completely by AI, we need to make sure what we're building is fun to watch and experience as a viewer as well.
That's really awesome. And one following up question that like literally melt in my head right now after we discussed, right? The different experience from streaming and streamers. Anything every streamer wanna really to do, but they can't while they're playing because they are fucking focused. They wanna deep entertain with community, like maybe even pull into data of game and give god mode or you know, like in Hunger Games, right? Airdrop something, give this opportunity. Like let's float into like token thing, like how you see your token power up your brand and how it will power up gamers experience and possible like reductive thing with AI, right? So because like tokens, it's also the way like a lot of ways to play with token. You can even like do wager battles or whatever, or make streamers play your game and give them a hand of god and really spend token into this game for this streamer and literally do something with this streamer, deep interaction, even watching.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, we are a blockchain studio. We've got obviously a lot of on-chain elements, one of which may be launching in the next 24 hours. So definitely keep an eye on our socials for that. But obviously down the road, there will be an alpha right there. The link is actually out there right now, but I don't think many people have found it yet. So if you know where to look, there is potentially a free mint that you might find. Maybe it's freemint.lightningforge.games. Who knows? But yeah, if you think about how our token will integrate within the LFG ecosystem, a big part of it actually ties into how you will train your LFG agents. There will be ways to train without using the token for free-to-play or Web2 gamers, but there will be benefits if you are training using the LFG token, basically to cover the costs of that. One of the things we want to keep in mind for us as an AI studio, we've got real-world costs associated to delivering this experience that other games won't have. We've got with AWS, we've got fleets of H200 graphics cards ready to go. We deploy them 8 at a time, basically, which we need to actually power all the AI training and stuff like that. And they're not cheap, so we've got to make sure that we get the tokenomics and we get the economy balance right, so we can afford to run this for a very long time. But yeah, the ways that you could integrate the token in this is literally insane. You could do AI powered tournaments with the token as an entry fee, or we've got tokens set aside in our tokenomics to basically use for rewards and community incentives. We could run free to play tournaments for AI or for humans, or mix them. Like we can really provide a wide range of different experiences. With tokens as a prize mechanism. If you're talking specifically about streamers and stuff like that, you could challenge, do an LFG token challenge match with your favorite streamer or influencer. And the best part of doing it is if the match is actually going to be played out by everyone's LFG agents, the streamer themselves doesn't have to really focus in and worry about playing the game. They get to just sit back, be the entertaining personality that honestly is usually there's two ways I'm speaking very broadly here, but there's two ways you find success as a streamer or a game content creator. You're either the best in the world at that game. When Faker streams League of Legends, everyone will tune in because it's Faker. Like, he doesn't even talk. He doesn't have to. He can just play the game and be that good that people will watch him. Or you have to be entertaining. People have to tune in because as much as they like the game, they like your take on the game. They enjoy your commentary. They enjoy your playstyle. They enjoy interacting with you as a person. And again, having LFG agents can go both ways. Like, you could have an agent which is, a world champion, and you could, stream that, and people would tune in to watch, the best in the world play. But you get to still sit back and be entertaining. Or you really do lean the other way. You focus on being the most charismatic, entertaining streamer that you can be. And again, you let the LFG agents handle the game itself. So yeah, either way you want to go, the token definitely will be involved in all of those approaches. With our tournaments, with our AI training and stuff like that. But yeah, again, all of this comes back to how do we make all of this happen? LFG agents.
That's
Yeah,
awesome, to
this
be
is
honest. Like, that's what we literally need to use for what agents and for what we need to use tokens, like properly entertaining community, because that's only way to retain back to token. I mean,
Hmm.
if we
Yeah, by the
understand,
way,
like,
talking about the retention, like you've mentioned that before you've worked as a consultant since you guys worked on 80 over games or around this amount. And after that, you worked in traditional gaming as a consultant on the user retention, right?
Yep.
And like, I'm really curious, what's your general strategy for keeping the user base, like your user base, uh, engaged?
Mhm.
Like how do you actually tackle the user retention? Because like Andres said about this earlier as well, when we were talking about the auto butlers that are not really, they are not really hot on the market right now, and with the B3 it's even harder because everything is still in the early stages.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So not the answer you're going to expect, but let me explain it. I don't know how we're going to retain our users. So apologies if that's, not the
That's
answer you
the
were hoping
best
for.
answer you can give.
But
That's the
yeah,
best answer you can give,
okay.
especially in Web3, because realistically, you don't really know how the user base is gonna react to different things, especially if you're like in a more unique angle. So, yeah.
We're creating a brand new genre of gaming. This hasn't been done before. I can't, like, we are literally doing the ungoogleable. I can't just go look at what other games have done, because as much as I can draw inspiration from previous successful games, we are playing in this brand new sandbox. But what I can talk about is what I've done for many years, working with clients all over the world. So with gaming, data is absolute king. We collect as much information as we can about what people are doing within the game itself. We look at how often does someone play, how long is their play session. We break them down into different player taxonomies. We go, cool, like, okay, this group of players seems to love coming in and playing just one match and dropping back out. This group of players loves grinding for hours at a time. These players, they jump in, they just claim their rewards and they leave. So we use data to get an understanding of what people are doing within the game. And then we do basically a variety of what we call A/B testing or MAB testing to go, okay, cool. Like, let's put out the theory that we think a lot of our players would love to see, like a weekend event where, like a double XP weekend, to use a really simple example here. So we'll do that. We'll run that for some players. Maybe other players we give a different incentive or reward to, and we study the data. Under the hood, we're looking at things at a very high level. So we're looking at like day 1, day 7, day 14, day 30 retention, which is basically a way of us saying, cool, someone plays the game for the first time. Do they come back the next day 1? Do they come back a week later, day 7? Like, how long does someone stay in the LFG ecosystem for? And we know it's not forever. Like, people will eventually drop off. They'll play something else. Then there's a whole re-engagement strategy we can do there as well. It's like, how do you get people to come back? Do we do an email blast of like, hey, we miss you, come back and we'll give you a shiny sword, or hey, we've got a world championship coming up. This is the perfect time to get back into the game. So there's, as a team, we have a lot of experience in how this works for other genres, other titles. We know what's worked in the past. One of the things that makes gaming so special and so beautiful, if anyone ever tells you, oh, I worked on games back in, the PS3 era, so I know how to engage users, they're idiots. That's as simple as it gets. Every game is different. Every community is different. If you try to just copy the tactics and strategies that have worked for other games, you will fail. You need to really be on the pulse of what your community is looking for. I am in our Discord. I am in our Telegram. I'm on our Twitter every single day. I'm playing any game that we might even consider to be a competitor. I'm in their Discords as well. I'm looking at what their community is asking for. I'm looking for opportunities in that space. If a certain game is, similar to ours, and their whole community is crying out for like, hey, we really want, weekend events, or we want, double XP weekends, we want tournaments, whatever that happens to be, that is where we start drawing our inspiration from. But again, we don't just assume that will work. We test everything that we do. There's no point just going, oh cool, we'll just implement this and hope it works. There's also no point in implementing something that works and assuming that it will keep working over and over and over. There's an old saying I actually learnt many years ago.
I've seen a lot of this mistakes.
When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. We might run a double XP weekend and players love it and everyone comes in and our servers are overflowing, which would be brilliant. We do it the next weekend and everyone's bored and no one cares. Or we do it the next weekend and maybe the plan worked, but it just so happens to be the same weekend that, Diablo did an update or Fortnite launched a new map or something like that. So honestly, how we're going to engage and retain our users, I don't know. And that is one of the most exciting aspects of working in the gaming space, is answering that question. And then for us, re-answering it over and over and over across multiple games. What works in GM will probably not work in YOLO. What works in YOLO will probably not work in GTFO. Because again, you're attracting different player cohorts, you're attracting different kinds of gamers into these different experiences. They are looking for different things. GM, we may end up with like a really hardcore competitive tournament scene around GM, and we will lean into that. I'll host, live World Cup events all over the world if that turns out to be what our players are looking for. But YOLO, maybe we end up with a really casual audience who just wants to sit back, chill, and watch them go through dungeons. So maybe there we need to really amp up and crank out content. So every time you come into the game, there are new monsters, new dungeons, new things to explore. Like I said, I don't know, but, and this is, I'm not just saying this so any of our investors listening stop freaking out and panicking right now. But as a team, we have the experience to look at the games we create, look at the data that comes out of those games, and then work out the strategies that will be effective, test them, implement them, and then keep that cycle going. The content treadmill, as we call it, because that's how you actually create games that last 5 years, 10 years, and beyond.
Yeah, I love
That's
your
a good
answer,
idea.
and I love your honesty, to be honest, because not many people would say it just right away. And it's really funny, like you said, it's like copying something is not gonna give you success. Some of the people in Web3 gaming, first time founders, I would say, and it's not me throwing the stones at them, but they think that if they copy some a successful traditional game, they would be able, to launch a token successfully and basically get it back and get out of the space. And it really sucks to see it. And I actually love that you came to this space experimenting. You're actually willing to risk it all, test out new things to see how the retention works. And you guys got already a really huge experience. So I'm rooting for your success and really looking forward to the game, which is by the way, is really I'm really interested. When are you guys going to release the game? What's the stage of the game right now? Is it alpha, beta? What's coming up next?
Yeah, so like I said, we had our first public playtest at GDC. If you like, I think I can actually if I can screen share on here, I think I can actually...
Yeah, you can click present. And
cool. If you like, I can have the game running while we chat.
Yeah. That would be really cool, yeah.
Cool. Sorry,
If I knew that was an option, I would have asked you to do that from the beginning.
Yeah.
I should have prepared this earlier, but yeah, I'll act a bit distracted for a second while we get this up and running. Builds. I'm literally gonna go download the latest build off our build server. I need to stress, just getting this out there ahead of time. This is very pre-alpha. This is early. This might crash. This might not work properly. There might be bugs. This is what happens when you try to show something off live very early on in the game development process. It's just downloading now, so I'll keep talking. When that comes up, I'll screen share it. But yeah, we had our first public playtest at GDC. We were at Helica Demo Day. We were at the Australian Showcase. We were at the Indie Game Showcase. We had an impromptu playtest with Gagme, who an awesome group. They're part of the AVAX ecosystem. They literally had a house party, and I was at dinner with some of the people from Avalanche, and I was getting texts hey, can you bring the game over to our house? We all want to play it. I can't think of a greater compliment than that when, there was obviously a lot of games at GDC and they wanted our game. They played earlier in the week and really enjoyed it. So yeah, we did like an impromptu, I think I streamed it on Twitter. But like, yeah, Doug was there, like all the Gag Me girls were there. That was really fun. So the game at the moment is in a playable state as far as internal and like very selective testing goes. The build we actually took to GDC, which I'll show here, we actually took our mobile build and we sort of adapted it into a couch co-op build. So we just had like 4 PlayStation controllers. People were playing with that. We didn't want, like, when you're doing live demos, it's not really fun if everyone's just sort of down looking at their phone screens. You want people basically to be able to look up at a big screen and have a bit more of a social experience, which was really good. Hang on, here we go. Run. What windows? Cool, there it is over there. All right, let's see what happens if I hit share screen, share screen 2. Let's see if this works. Oh, it's down the bottom. I think someone, whoever's the host, will need to click it and add it to the screen. Cool.
Yeah, Dave, if you can go through that.
Yep, there we go. Cool. So this is Gladiator Mayhem. So it's the same match. You're just watching it from both teams' perspectives. So it's like the camera, like one of the cameras is sort of rotated around. And it's going to pick just random characters and just keep running like a highlight reel sort of thing. But yeah, our next major milestone for GM is our what we call Gameplay Test 1, which is our first public playtest. That will be open to people within the LFG community. So if you want to help us with testing the game in this early stage, the best way to do that is join our Discord, join our Telegram, make sure you're in all our groups. So when we start doing that public testing, that will be good to go. Our ballpark date for that at the moment is May. So that will be when we start doing our first public playtests. The main reason why that takes, that's like 2 months from now, and it's like, oh, the game's like basically ready to go. It is. We got a lot of great feedback from GDC that we're looking to fix and basically add new features. Gameplay Test 1 will be the first online multiplayer build of the game. So we need to make sure that all our back-end tech is ready to go for that, especially given that we have a global community. So we need to make sure if someone from Europe jumps on, someone from Australia jumps on, what's the lag? What's the latency? Like, is that going to be a enjoyable experience? Make sure we're testing that out before, so that when we get to Gameplay Test 1, we put ourselves in the best position so that the feedback we're getting from our community is adding value for us. It's giving us good data to work with so we can sort of see what's going on. After Gameplay Test 1, I mean, realistically, we would like to keep that public playtest going. It's like an alpha and beta stage of the game, and then obviously try to get the game live as quickly as possible. But we're also very fortunate to be in a position where we oversubscribed our pre-seed round. We were one of the largest grant recipients for InfraBuild AI. Financially, as a studio, we're in a really great spot where we don't have to just rush something out the door. I would rather wait until everything we're seeing on the back end in terms of retention data and engagement data is really rock solid, and we've got enough content there for people to come in and really enjoy what we're building. This particular build, there's 2 barbarian characters and 2 imperial characters. I can tell you that each of the factions, so barbarians, imperials, empire, pirates, all those, there's going to be 12 factions that we're building in this game, and at least 5 classes to each faction. So, if you think, if you played League of Legends Dread back at launch, and they had like 40 characters, we're shooting for 60. They may not all be available at launch, but we want to make sure that we've got a good mix of characters in the game early, so that there's different play styles, matches are interesting, they're fun, they're dynamic, and then we've got that content treadmill backed up, ready to go, so that as people come in, there's always new things for them to be doing in the game. Whenever games I've worked on in the past, we don't look at launching the game as the end goal. Launching a game is step 1 in the process. We try to have at least 6 to 12 months of content backed up, ready to go behind that, and have the team basically scaled to a point where we're creating content at the same cadence that we're releasing content, so that we're always able to sort of maintain that expectation by the community of, hey, this is what we're going to be building, this is what's going to come out, stuff like that. So yeah, first public playtest will be May at this stage. Again, may change. Follow our socials for any updates around that. But But yeah, that'll be iOS and Android, maybe web. We're not 100% sure on that one yet, but iOS, Android definitely, and that will be a full online multiplayer test. Obviously, the main goal of that playtest is find bugs. The game will crash, the game will have issues. Like it's early, but yeah, find any major bugs and issues so the team can get on top of that. Bugs that you just won't find with internal testing. Like until you start getting, if you've worked in games, like until you have games out there live on every random phone that happens to exist out there, on every possible internet connection that exists out there, that's where you start really being able to find all these issues and really sort of narrow them down.
Everything breaks when the white public gets to it. Yep.
God, yes. I worked on a game years ago when I was consulting. It was a bridge, like the card game Bridge. It was a bridge game during COVID, and we had this one user who had these just weird dropouts, weird lag spikes. Just was having a really horrible experience with the game. And then we actually dug into it, and we found out they were playing on a Windows XP computer, and they were playing from their sailboat on satellite internet. And like how do you test for that? Like they're like, oh yeah, like the game keeps like crashing, and it's like, yeah, because your computer was made back when I had a full head of hair, like but we were able to actually get it running for them. They had a great time with it. So yeah, like it's the reason we do these public tests as early as possible. Keep in mind, Gladiator Mayhem, we only started working on this at the start of this year. So what you're looking at here is just under 3 months of active development by the team. I think we've come a really long way in that time. So by May, what you'll get is a much more polished experience, and we'll keep working on it over time. The great thing we're doing as well as a studio is we invested a lot of time and effort in making sure our core underlying tech is rock solid. As I mentioned before, we built a full deterministic game engine that runs underneath Unity that powers this game. That will also work for YOLO. That will also work for GTFO. So by the time GM gets released, we're actually like 90% of the way to releasing YOLO as well. So, once the first game is built, this pace at which we will be building additional games will get faster and faster, which is important because we need to obviously still support, GM, but we need to get game 2 out the door so that we can really show people like, hey, we told you everything was linked under the hood. Check it out. Like, go into GM, look how many gems you have. Go into YOLO. It's the same number of gems. Or your hero is the same. Your AI training is the same. Everything just works seamlessly across all of our games. So.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I like the concept. It's like Brawl Stars 2v2, kind of.
Yep.
It really reminds me of it.
Yeah.
By the way, another question that I want to ask you, since you guys worked a lot with AI, what do you think is the biggest challenge when it came to integrating Web3 and AI and gaming at the same time?
Yep.
Wait, I'm actually gonna jump into this one first because I know that you guys actually have a bit of a concept build for GTFO. So if we can actually have that one running in the background as well.
Sure. Let me find that.
Okay, perfect. Now you can go back to Jay's question.
Yeah, cool. I'll find that build while we're talking. If not, I know I've got plenty of footage I can add and share later on as well. So honestly, the hardest part for us, like we knew we wanted to build with LFG, we wanted to build in the Web3 space. It always frustrates me when I see people. It happens on LinkedIn all the time. It's like, oh, couldn't you build this without Web3? And it's like, sure, you probably could. I prefer the question, how does Web3 enhance the core experience you are delivering? Everyone seems to focus on like, oh, Web3, you don't need that. It's like, cool, I don't need a lot of things, but it enhances that core experience because people have true ownership of their digital assets. It allows, a player-driven trading economy. It allows, easier access to, buy in or have monetization to the game. A third of the planet doesn't have access to a bank account. Web3, like crypto, solves that problem for hundreds of millions or billions of people. When it comes to how do you sort of bring AI into the picture, honestly, early on, the big thing we were trying to make sure we were doing is getting around the whole issue of a solution looking for a problem. If we're going to, do AI on chain, it needs to be in a way that is actually adding value to the experience by the player, by the community, by the ecosystem, not just so we can, add it to a pitch deck and try to raise more money out of it. And that's honestly, it's a big problem that we see whenever there's a new fad. I can only imagine investors and VCs over the past 12 months, they would have been inundated with, the AI pitch decks. Earlier this year and late last year, they would have had the meme coin pitch decks. Don't know what the next one will be, but there's obviously always going to be like, hey, we're doing this because it's the hot narrative, and that we've never wanted to be in that space. We want to be like, right, we are building solutions to real problems. When we look at how LFG agents can solve live ops, we see ourselves as addressing a fundamental issue that is plaguing the gaming industry right now. This is a $500 billion problem. This is bigger than just us. So that's why we started building the AI tools that we're building in the first place. For us, when it comes to AI, the biggest problem I see in the AI space right now actually comes down to data. AI needs a lot of data. It needs a lot of personalized data to be able to give you that experience that you're looking for. And at the moment, the big players in the AI space, all that data is owned by them, for better or for worse. And pardon my language, I fucking hate that. I don't want OpenAI to have all of my personal data. I don't want Meta or whoever it happens to be having all of my personal information. That's my data, and I should be in control of it, and I should be able to choose who has access to that data and how it is being used. One of the key things that we're doing with LFG agents, so your agents are owned by you, and that's not just the actual model that we output, it's the actual data that we use to train your individual model at the same time. That data should belong to you. It shouldn't belong to us. We should need your permission to utilize that data, and you should be in control. You should have the ability to cut that off at any time. And Web3 gives us a very natural way of solving that problem. If everyone either connects a wallet to the game, or we create wallets on your behalf, we're working with Third Web using account abstraction to make sure that all happens seamlessly under the hood. It means that from day one, everything you are doing within the LFG ecosystem, especially when it comes to AI training, LFG agents, and the data your data that we are using for that, that is owned by you on chain. You are in full control of that. You choose how it gets used. You have the ability to cut that off from us. But more importantly, that is now an asset that you own. If you train an LFG agent, maybe it was one that is used for, say, the Barbarian Warrior, and that's a really you just happen to have trained a really great LFG agent that's winning tournaments and doing well. That's now an asset outside of the hero itself. That's an asset you own, as well as the data is an asset that you own. So all of a sudden now you've got this world of possibilities. Do you offer the data to someone else to train their own agents off your data? Due to the nature of AI training, it will still end up being a little different, but they'll be twins basically, similar but different. Do you potentially trade, rent, or sell the agent itself? Do you go, right, cool, I've trained this guy up. Dreadsong, this is literally you doing boosting services. Like, you've trained this LFG agent up, they're really strong. You own that agent. What you choose to do with it is completely up to you at that point. You could rent it to someone so they can play a tournament. You could sell it to someone and then train a new agent up, in its place. Like I said, true digital ownership it's just something that Web2 doesn't get. It's only really if you've been in the Web3 space for long enough, you understand just how important it is for people to own their own data. And I said, as a studio, we are going to make sure to the best of our abilities that we are implementing everything in this fashion from day one, from day dot, because that's, it's how it should be. Does it make our job harder? Absolutely. Would this be just so much easier if we just had everything sitting on an AWS database? Sure. But we didn't get into this to do things the easy way. We're going to this to do things the right way. So.
Yeah, I love it. Doing the things right way is always the most important thing, but not always goes the right way, unfortunately. But I hope everything will go the right way. Heimers, what's up?
I just want to ask a question. We talked here about the data, right? And like anonymous data, right? Facebook storing our data like in kind of semi-anonymous way, right? But still trading it. But in Web3, we have wallets, right? If you're familiar, for example, with government every government, every country have their own special high price software which like in this way can track in like one moment any way and movements of funds.
Mhm.
So here is like literally also the question: do we have decentralization? And in the future, all of this data, at least monetary data, right? What people store will be like tracked for advertisement. So the really interesting question: how we can like avoid all of this in general?
Um, honestly, there's
This is
pros and
really
cons to
hard question.
yeah. We're moving well beyond game development here. We're moving into philosophy almost. Um,
Yeah,
there's pros and cons to a decentralized ecosystem. There are pros and cons to using a ledger or a blockchain for financial transactions. There are some things that you don't care are public information. There are some things you don't want to be public information. Like I said, there are pros and cons to both sides of that argument. Um, but honestly, at the end of the day, it really comes down to intent. If you look at companies, so let's take Fang for example. Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Google, Netflix, like the big tech companies right now. Their most valuable product that they own is not their platform. It is not, whatever Google's most valuable product is not their search engine. Google's most valuable product is the personalized data they have collected across billions of users all over the planet. And then because they own that data and they will fight to protect their access to that data, they are then able to use that to build, their ad platform. They're able to build all these other things sort of extending off that. Um, you know, at a philosophical level, I personally believe that is the wrong approach. Is that the approach that makes the most money? Absolutely. Is LFG taking this approach potentially going to mean I'm not going to be a billionaire sitting on a yacht in the middle of the Caribbean? Sure, I'm okay with that. Because at a fundamental level, like privacy, whether we're talking digital or physical, is a human right. You should have the right to know what data is out there about you. You should have the right to understand how that data is being used by these companies. We've all experienced it where you're sitting around with friends, you start talking about wanting to buy a new heater or a new coffee machine, and the next thing you know, Facebook is showing you ads for heaters and coffee machines. Like it's sick
Yeah.
when you actually think about it. Like I said, the beauty of decentralization is that no one individual company should own your data. And yeah, like the beauty of decentralization is it means that if you do own that data, you are in control of who has access to it and how they are able to use it. You can cut them off at any time, and it opens up a world of possibilities. Like, we're collecting all of your like gameplay data to train your LFG agents. That's what makes your agent special and makes it unique to you, is that we're training it on your personalized, experiences that you've had within the LFG ecosystem. But if someone else wants to make a game and use that data, I don't know, to train a racing game, for example, or use it in some other way, like, we can't stop them. And that's amazing. And I actually love that about the whole concept of decentralized data and you being in ownership of your data. Like, this shouldn't be a world where I have the ability to say yes or no on someone else's ability to use your data. That 100% should be up to the individual. And one of the beauties of decentralization, like Rocket League is an example I use all the time. They had this incredible secondary marketplace where people were selling and trading cars, wheels, like toppers, all that stuff. It was great. A lot of people had invested some really significant amounts of money in owning these beautiful collections of like tradable assets. And then they decided to just cut that off one day and just turn it off. And the community, there was uproar, but community can't do anything about it because at the end of the day, the community didn't really own those assets as much as that was, the whole premise it was built on. One of the beautiful things about true decentralization, we're going to give you all of your heroes, whether you're a free-to-play player, whether you're a Web3 player. We're going to do account abstraction. So from day one, everything you are collecting in the LFG ecosystem is owned by or is in a wallet that is attached to you. You can take ownership of that wallet at any point in time, And let's say, for example, that as much as we might try to build an in-game marketplace for you to trade heroes or LFG agents and stuff like that, the community goes, you know what? Let's build our own. We want to add new features that we don't have. Maybe they want to remove trading fees or however what they want to do. They can go and do that, and we can't stop them. And that is awesome. And I actually love that about building in the Web3 space. Like, if the community wants a better marketplace, go build it. We'll try to do it for you, but maybe there's a feature that we can't build or something that the community wants that we don't have on our roadmap. And if they really want it, hell, another company could start a business being the premier marketplace for the LFG ecosystem. And hell, we'll actually support you in doing that if it's adding value to our community and our ecosystem that we are building at the same time. And again, because everything is decentralized, because you have true ownership of all your assets, we can't stop that from happening. And that's beautiful. And that's how it should be. Can you imagine a world where the Pokemon company is able to say to you, hey, you can't trade your Charizard card with your friend because it's not actually yours, it's ours? Like, if I have a Charizard, I don't have one lying around. I've got some magic cards here, but you get the idea. Like, theoretically right now, I could open this pack of magic cards and I could give them away to friends. I could set this on fire and destroy them if I wanted to, because I own this. You think about all of our digital assets and you really have no control over what happens with them. It's all controlled by some other company. And yeah, decentralization solves that fundamental issue in a beautiful way and a scalable way. So yeah, not to wax philosophical, but yeah,
I
that's
really wanted to interrupt because you reminded me about the Cheetos art.
yeah.
Yeah, if people are getting banned by by the Pokemon company to trade cards, they're just gonna be trading Pokemon shaped Cheetos. I think there's plenty of walkarounds for that. Also, Ferrari would probably want a word with you.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I know even Tesla with Cybertrucks, there was this whole thing where you look at the contracts for a Cybertruck, and not to get political or anything, I'm just using them as an example for something that I know they did. If you sell your Cybertruck in the first 12 months, Tesla won't sell you another one ever.
Oh, that's interesting. I did not know about that.
Yeah, it's a weird thing in the contract you sign to buy a Cybertruck is you're not
what?
allowed to you are not allowed to
SBT Cybertruck, bro.
Yeah, you are not allowed to sell it, or if you do, they just won't ever sell you another car. It's insane. If I am giving you, in the case of a Cybertruck,
GG,
$100,000 or something,
Orange, you won't be able to.
you're telling me
Orange, you won't
I
be
should be
able
able to take.
buy another Cybertruck.
Yeah, you're telling me I can't take that car and do literally within the law and stuff like that, obviously. But I should be able to do whatever the hell I want with it. That is a product that I should own. And it is insane to me that in the digital context, this is the norm. Do you own the games that you have on Steam? Do you own your iTunes library? I can't remember who it was. There was
really.
Yeah, there was a celebrity that
Because
in his will. Oh, sorry, go.
Yeah, the Steam policy states that the items that you buy on Steam Marketplace, you're renting from Steam Marketplace.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Web3 assets that you buy on Steam games, you actually own them. So easy explanation of Web3 to new buys.
To new players, honestly, it's this is as close to the physical world as we can get in a digital context. If you buy a Web3 asset, you own that asset. And you can explain it in those sort of terms. If I buy a rare Charizard Pokemon card and I leave it on the train and it gets lost, well, it's gone. If I have a digital, trading card in a crypto wallet and I lose access to that wallet, well, again, it's gone. I think we've gotten so used to this world, with online where everything can be recovered and stuff like that, people forget that, you do have to take ownership of your digital assets. And yeah, for better or for worse, there's a lot. It's very easy to explain how it works when you look at just real world analogies and sort of bring them across.
This also reminds me of the fact that it was actually Ubisoft that was pushing quite heavily around the idea of gamers buying products and actually not owning them. And I find it very ironic that the traditional gaming market is very upset about that statement, and they should be, obviously, but they're at the same time extremely upset about the general consensus of Web3 enabled gaming as well. Like, it doesn't make sense, like it's antithetical. So yeah, I just wanted to, like, make this quick observation because it came to mind, but it's weird. It's extremely weird. And yeah.
No, absolutely agree.
Anyway, we're essentially 5 minutes away from stream end. I do know that I
Yeah,
asked
I
for a
have a hard
sneak
stop.
peek on GTFO, so if we can sneak that in like real quick before the stream ends, that would be perfect.
I've got some videos. I don't think I've actually got a build like on my computer at the moment. Because the build we had at Token and stuff like that, that was all iOS. I'm on a Windows machine at the moment.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay.
I'm just flicking through. But what you can do, there was one of our Forge chats. If you go on our YouTube or even go back in our history on Twitter, I know there was a Forge chat that we streamed a lot of footage from like GTFO. So you can go back and check that out. I'll find some of the gameplay clips and I'll send them through if you want to pop them below this video or something like that. Obviously, feel free. But yeah, at the moment, GTFO's, even though it was the first game we started working on, it will be the third game to be released. Primarily because when you're doing that epic scale auto battler, that's where you really need to have as many different units and factions as possible to make it interesting. So that's why we've gone like GM first, then YOLO, then GTFO. We're releasing them in the cadence that makes the most sense for finding product market fit and actually having them stick and gather a following and gather a community around them.
Okay, sounds good. Well,
I just
Jave,
wanna
any
play.
closing remarks? There we go. Himmers
Yeah,
wanted to
for sure.
speak.
I
He has
wanna
to ask for
play.
he has to ask for my permission to speak.
After we play League of Legends, I will start asking.
Yeah. But no, I mean, don't get me wrong. We want to get the games in the hands of our community as quickly as possible as well. So yeah, May is our current planned timeline. If it's earlier, obviously we'll do it earlier. But yeah, we want to make sure that when we get that first gameplay test out there, it's in a state where we're getting great feedback from the community. The game works, it's stable, it's full online multiplayer, obviously. And then yeah, from there we'll be doing as much public testing as possible as we go into alpha, go into beta, and then obviously into the full GM launch.
Let's go.
Sounds good.
Looking forward to it. We'll need to schedule another interview after your launch, 100%. So
Yeah, just
Yeah,
looking forward
yeah,
to
just we can
May.
actually play it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you may not
Would
you may
be-
not play the game. You may just sit back, let your LFG agents do the work for you.
Exactly.
One of
That's also an option. Yeah, we're just
the
letting.
coolest.
Yeah, we let the gameplay itself while we discuss like the random subjects.
And here's to give a real world example of what we're trying to accomplish with LFG agents. Like we've just had the four of us had a conversation for 90 minutes. We could have had once GM is out, we'd all trained our LFG agents. We could have just had them battling for the last 90 minutes and just had that sitting off to the side while we're talking and just do like random matchmaking or just set up 2v2s where we want. So yeah, I think there's a really exciting world with this new AFK and play genre. That's going to open up just a really interesting set of possibilities for gamers around the world.
Let's go. I would be
I
glad
lost
to
you
play
for a
game.
moment because I lost for a moment, you guys, because someone was knocking at my door. I think I was speaking too loud. That's
FBI?
like FBI, hell no. But Hammers, what did you want to say?
I just would be glad to play game and like do some fun content on it when it will go like live to get gamers play publicly. Just
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I love
Being able to
games.
That's the thing. Being able to sit back, chat with your audience. They can jump into matches against you. You can commentate them, in real time. You probably wouldn't even know if you're playing against the actual, person who is watching or their LFG agent, which is really cool. So yeah, it just opens up this really exciting world. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing our games obviously get out there and get people, involved in this world of, AI powered gameplay. And then obviously we're chatting with other studios and other games as well. So there'll be this whole world outside of what we build of other games sort of utilizing LFG agents as well, which is really exciting.
Let's go.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah, this
super
is
good.
really cool.
LFG.
We need more
LFG.
AI agents to literally entertain more.
Mm.
Like imagine in Web3 gaming will be more AI agents. There will be never trouble on start of game that there's like not enough gamers to play or they can't fulfill lobby.
Yeah, imagine a world where, like, for game studios, we get to choose how many gamers we have online on day one. We can decide how long a queue time is. We get to make sure that every match you go into is perfectly balanced with players around your skill level, no latency. Like, yeah, it just opens up this beautiful world, and we're really excited for the community to get their hands on it and get their thoughts.
Yeah, really excited about it as well. It's a pity that we have not had so much time because we have so many questions to ask, and it was really interesting interview. And looking forward to another sessions
we're
like that in the
one and a
future as
half
well.
hours in. We've already eaten your whole morning, so there we go.
Yeah,
Trust me,
sorry about
I've got
that. By the way.
no. Like, I'm glad this started early because I've got a jam-packed day today. Yeah, obviously coming back from GDC, there's a lot of people we've got to be chatting to, a lot of cool stuff going on. And yeah, obviously the whole team is really focused on getting that gameplay test one build ready to go. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff happening right now.
Yeah, when it's ready, hit us up. We would love to try it out as well. And
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this interview.
Awesome.
It was really awesome. Shout out to NSA and Riza in the chat as well. Quite an interesting approach. Looking forward to see how the launch will play out. Looking forward to it as well. Great interview. Awesome job, boys. Thank you so much, NSA, for the support. And
Awesome.
yeah, thank you guys.
Cool.
Thank you for
As we say
participating.
it,
Thank
as
you
we
for the
say it,
interview.
Lightning
Thank
Forge
you for your
Games,
time.
LFG,
LFG.
LFG. Awesome. Have a great day, everyone.
Or GTFO.
You're on.
Have a great day.
Or GTFO. Yeah, we
Take
prefer
care.
the more positive one. Let's go LFG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Choose your thingy wisely, right?
Yeah.